After driving 9 hours through a snowstorm to surprise my wife on her birthday, I walked in with a cake and heard her tell her sister, "God, I hope he crashes. I could use the insurance." Her sister replied, "Or at least a few months of silence." They laughed. I left the cake on the counter. The next morning I was gone. 3 weeks later, she regretted everything she said. So I, 33 male, and my wife, Abigail, 31 female, have been married for 7 years. Classic story: high school sweethearts, broke up for college, reconnected at a mutual friend's wedding, and the rest was history. Or so I thought. Things haven't been great lately. Abigail's been distant. Started about 6 months ago when she began hanging out more with her sister Mia and this new group of friends who all seem to drive cars they can't afford and take vacations they don't have the money for. Not judging, just noticing. Abigail started making comments about our house being starter size and asking when I was going to level up career-wise. I chalked it up to a phase. We live comfortably. Nice 3-bedroom in a good neighborhood, 2 decent cars, yearly vacation. Nothing fancy, but we're doing fine. Or I thought we were. Last week was Abigail's birthday. February birthdays suck in the Midwest, always cold, often snowy. Plans get canceled, so I decided to do something special this year. Her actual birthday fell on a Tuesday, but she'd mentioned wanting to visit her sister that weekend since they had plans to go to some spa thing on Saturday. I told her I couldn't get away from work and would have to stay behind. That was a lie. I'd actually arranged to take Friday off. The plan? Surprise her by showing up at Mia's place Friday evening with her favorite cake from this bakery near our house, then take her out for a fancy dinner I'd already booked. I'd even packed a bag with her favorite dress and shoes. I had it all worked out. Weather reports started looking sketchy Thursday night. Winter storm warning, 6 to 10 inches expected across 3 states, including the entire route I needed to drive. Most people would have canceled. I didn't. Partly stubborn determination, partly not wanting to waste the reservation at the restaurant that took me 3 weeks to get. I left at 7 a.m. Friday. What should have been a 6-hour drive turned into a 9-hour nightmare. White-knuckle driving through snow so thick I could barely see the taillights in front of me. 3 accidents on the highway slowed everything to a crawl. Had to stop twice to get coffee just to stay alert. But I kept thinking about Abigail's face when I'd walk through the door. Worth it, right? Got to Mia's neighborhood around 4 p.m. Had to park a block away because the plows hadn't come through yet. Grabbed the cake box and trudged through ankle-deep snow. My jeans were soaked by the time I got to Mia's front door. The door was unlocked. I could hear them in the kitchen, voices and laughter. I was about to call out when I heard my name. Abigail was mid-sentence. From Noah. Nothing. Radio silence. Mia said something I couldn't make out. Then Abigail, clearer, "He texted earlier saying he was stuck at work. Probably still there." "In this weather, they'd have sent everyone home," Mia replied. "Well, he's probably on the couch with his headphones on, playing that stupid game again." I froze in the entryway. This wasn't the usual playful eye-rolling about my gaming habits. There was real contempt in her voice. "At least he's not here ruining your birthday week," Mia said. I almost stepped in then to announce myself. Wish I had. Instead, I heard what came next. "God, can you imagine?" Abigail laughed. "He'd insist on coming to dinner with us tonight and tell the same 3 stories he always tells. Then he'd get that sad puppy look when I want to go out tomorrow without him." My stomach knotted. I stood there, holding this stupid cake I'd driven 9 hours through a blizzard to deliver, listening to my wife mock me to her sister. "Well, at least he's safely out of the way," Mia said. "The roads are a disaster. My friend's husband got stuck on the highway for 3 hours." There was a pause. Then Abigail said something I'll never forget. "God, I hope he crashes. I could use the insurance." I must have made a noise because they both got quiet. I thought I'd been caught, but then Mia responded, "Or at least a few months of silence." They both laughed. Actual laughter at the thought of me dead or hospitalized. I don't remember consciously deciding what to do next. I just walked into the kitchen, placed the cake box on the counter, and walked back out. Their faces, I've never seen color drain from someone's face so fast in real life. Abigail called my name, but I just kept walking, back through the snow, back to my car. I sat there for maybe 20 minutes before I could even put the key in the ignition. My phone blew up. 17 missed calls by the time I checked. 38 text messages. I read exactly none of them. I drove to the nearest motel. Cost me $80 for a room that smelled like cigarettes and desperation. Turned off my phone and stared at the ceiling until sunrise. When I did turn my phone back on, there were 63 texts and 29 missed calls. I didn't read them. Just texted my friend Theodore, something happened with Abigail. Need a place to crash for a few days. Theo, being the MVP he is, just replied, doors unlocked, beers in the fridge. I drove the 9 hours back home, packed 3 suitcases of clothes and essentials while Abigail was still at Mia's. Grabbed my important documents from our fireproof box and went to Theo's. That was 3 days ago. I still haven't spoken to Abigail, though not for her lack of trying. She's called from multiple numbers, left voicemails ranging from tearful to angry, and even showed up at my work yesterday. I wasn't there, called in sick. Today, I went to the bank and moved half our joint savings into a new account in just my name, froze our joint credit cards, changed all my passwords, told my boss I needed to work remotely for a week due to a family emergency. It's all very methodical, which is weird because inside, I feel like I'm in free fall. The thing is, I keep replaying those words, I hope he crashes. I could use the insurance. Who says that about someone they're supposed to love? Who laughs about their spouse being silenced for months? Even worse is realizing this probably isn't the first time she said something like this. Just the first time I heard it. Our friends have started reaching out. Apparently, Abigail's telling people we had a misunderstanding and I'm overreacting. Classic gaslighting move. One mutual friend texted saying, whatever happened, I'm sure you guys can work through it, without even asking for my side. I haven't told anyone what I heard. Not even Theo knows the full story, though he hasn't pushed. He just keeps the fridge stocked and gives me space. Last night, I finally read some of Abigail's texts. They follow a predictable pattern. Confusion. Where did you go? Why did you leave? Defensiveness. It was just a joke. You weren't supposed to hear that. Anger. You're being childish. Answer your damn phone. Manipulation. I'm worried about you. Please let me know you're okay. Threats. If you don't call me back, I'm calling the police to report you missing. Self-pity. I can't believe you do this to me on my birthday weekend. Not one genuine apology, not one acknowledgement of how messed up what she said was. After reading those, I blocked her number. I'm not ready to talk to her. Maybe I never will be. Today, I met with a financial advisor named Milton, who a coworker recommended. Spent 2 hours going through our finances. Found out some interesting things, like how Abigail's been spending $1,800 a month on online shopping for the past year, or how she took out a store credit card I didn't know about with a $3,000 balance. Milton helped me make a plan to disentangle our finances as painlessly as possible. It's all legal, nothing shady, but it means Abigail's about to get a reality check about her spending habits. The joint account I left untouched has enough for this month's mortgage and utilities. After that, we'll see. I'm not trying to leave her destitute. I just need her to understand there are consequences. The wild thing is, I still catch myself wondering if I'm overreacting. Like maybe it really was just a joke, but then I remember her tone, the casualness of wishing me dead, the laughter after. And I know I'm not. Theo says I should talk to her, if only to get closure. Maybe he's right. But right now, I'm still processing, still trying to figure out who this person I married actually is. Tomorrow marks 4 days of silence from my end. Abigail's sister, Mia, tried to call today. I didn't answer. Then our neighbor Lydia texted, saying Abigail was at our house, crying on the front step because I changed the garage door code. Part of me feels bad. Most of me doesn't. The thing that keeps me up at night isn't even the insurance comment. It's the laughter. The easy way they both found humor in the thought of me suffering. Who does that? And how long has she felt this way? I've also been wondering about the life insurance policy we took out 3 years ago. It's not huge, $500,000, but enough to make someone hope he crashes, I guess. Calling the insurance company tomorrow to see about changing the beneficiary. I know this is getting long, but typing it all out helps. Theo's got a buddy who's a divorce lawyer. Meeting him for coffee tomorrow. Not sure if that's where this is heading, but I need to know my options. For anyone wondering what I'm going to do next, I don't know yet. Part of me wants to just disappear completely, change my number, move to a different state, start over. But that feels like running away. Another part wants confrontation, wants to see her face when I repeat her words back to her, wants her to feel 1/10 of the hurt I'm feeling. But mostly, I just want the hollow feeling in my chest to go away. I want to stop seeing her face when I close my eyes. I want to stop hearing those words and that laughter on repeat in my head. For now, though, I'm taking it one day at a time, keeping my head down, making plans, and letting her wonder where I am, what I know, and what I'm going to do. If there's interest, I'll update as things develop. Regardless, thanks for letting me vent. Sometimes the internet is the only place where strangers will just listen without trying to fix everything. Still standing, still breathing. Noah. Quick TLDR of my previous post for those joining. I drove 9 hours through a snowstorm to surprise my wife Abigail at her sister Mia's house for her birthday. Overheard Abigail telling Mia she hoped I'd crash for the insurance money. Left the cake on the counter and walked out. Been staying at my friend Theodore's place for 3 days, ignoring her calls and texts while sorting out finances. Lots of you asked for an update when things developed, so here we are. It's been a week since my last post and 10 days since I heard those words that keep replaying in my head like a cursed TikTok sound. They say anger fades. That's what all the self-help podcasts Theodore's been playing in the kitchen claim anyway. The rage subsides, and you're left with a clear mind to make better decisions. I'm still waiting for that part. Last Wednesday, day 4 of silence, I woke up with a plan. Not a good plan, not a healthy plan, but a plan that felt right in that moment. I waited until 9:30 a.m. when I knew Abigail would be at work. Then I went home, our home, with 3 empty suitcases and Theodore's pickup truck. The house looked exactly the same as when I left it. Coffee mugs still on the counter, mail piled up by the door, but it felt different, foreign, like walking into a movie set of my life rather than the actual thing. I started in the bedroom, packed all my clothes except the ones Abigail had picked out for me over the years, left those hanging in the closet like abandoned cocoons. Took my grandmother's watch from the dresser, my journals from the bookshelf, the external hard drive with all our photos. Petty maybe, but I paid for the damn thing. In the office, I disconnected my gaming setup, left the desk. We bought it together, but took the chair. I bought it when she complained about the squeaky wheels on the old one. Found our marriage certificate in the filing cabinet and took that too. Not sure why, just felt important. Throughout the house, I systematically removed myself. My books, my records, my tools from the garage, the weird metal sculpture I bought at that art fair she hated. 4 hours of methodically erasing my presence. What I didn't take, anything we'd purchased together, the couch we picked out after 3 weekends of shopping, the kitchen table where we'd eaten thousands of meals, the bed where we'd slept, fought, made up, made love, I left. I left all of our framed photos exactly where they were. Something about seeing my face smiling back at her from every wall, every surface, felt right, a reminder of what she'd thrown away. Before I left, I did 3 things. First, I turned the thermostat down to 62 degrees. Abigail always complained if it was below 70. Second, I took the light bulb out of the refrigerator, a small inconvenience that would take days to notice but would irritate her every time she opened it at night. Third, I changed the Wi-Fi password to IHopeHesh's 2023 and left the router unplugged. Small things, petty things, things that would make her feel the absence of me in 100 tiny ways before she even processed the bigger absence. As I locked the door behind me, our neighbor Lydia was getting her mail. She looked at Theodore's truck filled with my stuff, then at me, eyebrows raised. I just shrugged and said I was taking some things to donate. She didn't believe me, her eyes said as much, but she nodded and went inside. Midwest politeness, don't ask uncomfortable questions, mind your business. Usually annoys me, but that day I was grateful. Back at Theodore's, I stacked everything in his garage except for 2 suitcases of clothes and necessities that came inside. He helped me unload without asking questions. Just handed me a beer when we'd finished and said, "Sometimes life kicks you in the teeth." Thursday was financial day. Met with Milton again. He'd gathered all our account information and laid everything out in a spreadsheet that made my stomach turn. Turns out Abigail had been spending way more than I realized. Not just the store credit card I mentioned before, but cash withdrawals from our joint checking, $300 here, $500 there. Over $12,000 in the past year that she couldn't account for with receipts or purchases I could see. Milton helped me draft a letter formally requesting financial separation, not divorce papers, not yet, but a clear statement that I would no longer be responsible for any new debts she incurred. Had it delivered by courier to her workplace. Petty? Maybe. Effective? Definitely. I also canceled our shared streaming accounts and subscription services, changed the passwords on our cloud storage where we kept important documents, redirected all my mail to a P.O. box. Small, systematic cuts to our intertwined life. Friday morning, I finally checked my social media. 17 Facebook messages, 34 Instagram DMs, even my dormant Twitter had notifications. People checking if I was okay, people asking what happened with Abigail, people taking sides without knowing the full story. I posted exactly one thing, a photo of a half-eaten birthday cake on a kitchen counter. No caption, no context, just the cake. Within an hour, my phone blew up. Friends texting to ask what it meant. Abigail called 6 times in 20 minutes. Her best friend Jill sent a message asking if I was okay because Abigail was really worried. I answered none of them. That afternoon, I met with Ray, my boss from work, to explain I needed some personal time. He was surprisingly understanding, just asked how much time I needed and if I could still handle the Wilson project remotely. I said yes to the project, 2 weeks for the time. He didn't pry, just clapped me on the shoulder and said sometimes space was the best way to get clarity. First decent advice I'd gotten since this whole thing started. Saturday brought the first real confrontation. I was at the grocery store, staring at frozen pizzas, trying to remember which brand Theodore preferred, when someone called my name. Turned around to find Mia standing there, shopping basket in hand, face pale like she'd seen a ghost. She started with the usual, "Abigail's worried, sick, everyone's concerned, won't I please just talk to her?" When I didn't respond, her tone shifted. Said I was being childish, said it was just a joke between sisters, said I was blowing things out of proportion. I finally spoke. Asked her point blank if she thought wishing death on your spouse for insurance money was normal sister joke material. Asked if she'd want her boyfriend to hear her say something similar. Asked if she realized that joke was the culmination of months of Abigail's growing contempt. She didn't have answers, just stammered something about misunderstandings and context. I put the pizza back, left my half-filled cart in the aisle, and walked out. Petty? Satisfying? Also, Sunday was quiet. Theodore had some friends over to watch the game. They all knew something was up, but nobody asked. Just handed me beers and made room on the couch. For 3 hours, I almost felt normal. Then Monday hit, and with it, reality. My temporary leave from work began. The house I'd shared with Abigail for 5 years was sitting half-empty across town, and my phone showed 15 missed calls from her overnight. I finally listened to one voicemail. Her voice sounded different, scratchy, raw. She said she hadn't been sleeping, said the house felt wrong without me, said she'd noticed more and more of my things missing, and it was scaring her. Asked if I was ever coming back or if I was ghosting our entire marriage. Something about her terminology, treating our relationship like some Tinder match you can just disappear from, hardened something in me. I texted Theodore that I was going for a drive and ended up parked outside our house. My house, Abigail's house, for almost an hour. Her car wasn't there. The porch light was on, even though it was daytime, like she'd forgotten to turn it off. The recycling bin at the curb was overflowing with wine bottles. I didn't go in, just sat there wondering how many mortgage payments I had left, wondering if I should sell it and split the proceeds or try to buy her out. Wondering how we'd gone from forever to forensic accounting in 10 days. Tuesday brought another financial surprise. Notification from our credit card company about unusual activity. Abigail had gone on a shopping spree, over $2,000 at department stores and boutiques. Retail therapy or deliberate financial sabotage. Either way, I called and reported the card stolen. Had a new one sent to my P.O. box. Another bridge burned. That night, I finally posted something more substantial online. Not about Abigail specifically, but a simple status. Sometimes the hardest thing and the right thing are the same. Vague enough to mean anything, specific enough for those in the know. Abigail would see it. Her friends would see it. The narrative was shifting from Noah's having a meltdown to something serious happened. Wednesday marked 2 weeks since I'd heard those words in Mia's kitchen. 2 weeks of silence from my end, 2 weeks of increasingly desperate attempts to contact me from Abigail's end. I met with a lawyer Theodore recommended. Nice guy, named Milton. Yes, same name as my financial advisor, which got confusing fast. He laid out my options. Divorce would be straightforward since we don't have kids, but the house and finances would still be complicated. He suggested a formal separation first to give both of us time to untangle things properly. I agreed, and he drafted the paperwork on the spot. Said he could have it served as early as Friday. The ball was rolling now, picking up speed with each day of silence. Thursday was when things escalated. I was working remotely from Theodore's dining table when the doorbell rang. Theodore answered, then came back looking uncomfortable. Abigail was outside, he said, crying, demanding to see me. I sat there, frozen, coffee halfway to my lips, as Theodore awkwardly asked if he should send her away or let her in. Neither option felt right. I wasn't ready to see her, wasn't ready to hear whatever excuses she'd prepared. But sending her away felt like giving her ammunition, proof I was being unreasonable, so I nodded, and Theodore let her in. She looked terrible. Hair unwashed, eyes red-rimmed, wearing what looked like the same sweater from days ago. She stood in the doorway, staring at me like she couldn't quite believe I was real. I didn't stand, didn't offer her a seat, just waited. She spoke first, asking if I was really having her served with separation papers. Apparently, Milton's assistant had called to verify our address, and she'd pressed until they revealed what the call was about. So much for the element of surprise. I said, yes, I was. She asked why I wouldn't talk to her, wouldn't let her explain. Her voice kept catching, like she had to force the words out. I told her there was nothing to explain. I heard what I heard. She said it wasn't what I thought, that she'd been stressed about work and bills, and her sister always brought out the worst in her. That she didn't mean it literally, it was just dark humor after a few glasses of wine. I asked her if she remembered what she'd said exactly. She hesitated, then claimed she'd said, I wish he'd just crash on the couch for a while, and I'd misheard. That's when I pulled out my phone and played the audio. Yes, I had a recording. Not because I'd planned it. I'd been using a voice memo app to record gift ideas on the drive, trying to think of what else to get her for her birthday besides the cake. Never stopped the recording when I arrived. Pure accident, or fate, or whatever you want to call it. Her exact words, in her exact voice. God, I hope he crashes. I could use the insurance. Mia's response, or at least a few months of silence. The laughter afterward. The color drained from Abigail's face as she heard herself. She tried to grab my phone. I moved it away. She started crying harder, saying it was taken out of context. She didn't mean it. She'd never hurt me. I just asked her one question. Would you have told me about this conversation if I hadn't heard it myself? Her silence was answer enough. Theodore had made himself scarce when she arrived, but now he came back into the room, awkwardly suggesting maybe we should continue this conversation another time when emotions weren't so high. Abigail ignored him, focused entirely on me. She started listing all the things she'd realized over the past 2 weeks, how much she depended on me, how the house felt empty without me, how she couldn't sleep in our bed alone, how she'd never meant to hurt me and would spend the rest of her life making it up to me if I'd just come home. It was the performance of a lifetime. Tears, trembling hands, voice breaking at all the right moments. 2 weeks ago, I might have been moved, might have believed her. But something had changed in me. I'd spent 14 days thinking about not just what she'd said, but why she'd said it, the contempt that must have been building, the casual cruelty. The person who could laugh at the thought of me dead was not the person I thought I'd married. So, I told her the truth. I didn't know if I could ever trust her again. The separation papers weren't about punishing her, they were about protecting myself while I figured out if there was anything left to save. She didn't take it well. Started saying I was throwing away 7 years over one stupid comment, that everyone says things they don't mean when they're venting, that I was being cruel by disappearing and ignoring her. I just sat there, letting her words wash over me without penetrating. When she finally ran out of steam, I told her the separation papers would be delivered tomorrow, and she should read them carefully before deciding next steps. She left sobbing, mascara streaked down her face. Theodore came back in with 2 beers and said that was the most uncomfortable thing he'd witnessed since his parents' divorce. Dark humor, but I appreciated the attempt. That night, I couldn't sleep. Kept replaying her face when she heard the recording. The shock, the panic, but not, I noticed, genuine remorse, just the fear of consequences. Friday morning, the papers were delivered as promised. By Friday afternoon, Abigail's sister was posting vague social media statuses about men who overreact and destroy marriages over misunderstandings. Funny how family closes ranks, even when they know who's in the wrong. But something unexpected happened too. Abigail's best friend, Jill, messaged a simple text saying she'd heard the whole story now, including what Abigail had actually said, and she was sorry I was going through this. Said she'd known Abigail since college and had seen her make similarly cutting remarks about others, said she tried to talk to Abigail about it before but got shut down. It was the first message from anyone in Abigail's circle that acknowledged the legitimacy of my pain rather than trying to minimize it. I didn't respond, but it stuck with me. Maybe Abigail's comment wasn't a momentary lapse, but a glimpse of her true character. Maybe I'd been missing or ignoring red flags for years. The weekend passed quietly. Theodore had a date, so I had the house to myself. Ordered pizza, watched a sci-fi series Abigail had always refused to watch with, and tried not to think about the fact that in another life, another timeline, I'd be at home with my wife, celebrating our monthly pizza and movie night tradition. Sunday night, Abigail texted just 2 words, "I'm sorry." First genuine apology in 17 days. No excuses attached, no demands to talk, just those 2 words. I didn't respond, but I thought about it longer than I should have. Monday morning, day 18 of this new reality, I woke up to find Abigail sitting in her car outside Theodore's house, just sitting there, watching the door. Theodore spotted her first and pointed her out through the kitchen window. I called her, asked what she was doing. She said she just needed to see me to know I was really okay, said she wouldn't approach the house or make a scene, just needed visual confirmation. It was both concerning and oddly touching. I told her to go home, that this wasn't helping either of us. She asked if I'd read her message. Said yes. Then she asked the question I'd been dreading, "Are you filing for divorce?" I told her the truth, I hadn't decided yet. She stayed in her car for another hour before finally driving away. Theodore suggested changing the locks on my house, just in case. I agreed, and we spent the afternoon installing new deadbolts. Another small severing of our connected lives. Today marks 3 weeks since that night at Mia's. 3 weeks of silence, mostly, separation, and sorting through the wreckage of what I thought was a solid marriage. I'm not sleeping great. I miss stupid things. The way Abigail always bought the good coffee even though it was more expensive, how she'd sing badly in the shower every morning, her ridiculous collection of fuzzy socks that always ended up on my side of the bed. But I don't miss the growing contempt I now realize had been building for months. Don't miss walking on eggshells around her moods. Don't miss the subtle put-downs that I'd brushed off as just her sense of humor. The separation papers have been signed and filed. The lawyer says we're officially in a legal separation period, 6 months where we're still technically married, but living apart with finances formally separated. At the end of those 6 months, we either reconcile or proceed with divorce. 3 weeks ago, I wouldn't have hesitated to say reconciliation was impossible. Now, I'm less certain, not because I've forgiven her, but because untangling a 7-year marriage is complicated. Houses and bank accounts and families and friends, all intertwined in ways I'm only now beginning to understand. As I write this, my phone lights up with a notification. Another message from Abigail, can we meet? Neutral location just to talk, please. I don't know what I'm going to say. Part of me wants to hear her out. Part of me thinks it's just prolonging the inevitable. Most of me is just tired of the whole situation, but I suspect I'll agree to meet her, if only to say to her face all the things I've been typing to strangers on the internet. I'll update if anything significant changes. And thanks for all the advice on the last post, even the weird suggestions involving glitter and her shampoo bottle. Some of you need therapy, but I appreciate the solidarity. Still standing, still breathing. Noah. Final update. It's been exactly 25 days since I left that cake on the counter. 25 days of silence, separation, and more adulting than I ever wanted to do. This will probably be my last update because, well, there's only so many ways to dissect a dead marriage before even the internet gets bored. First, thanks for all the comments and DMs. Yes, even the weird ones. No, I did not take the advice about putting fish in her car vents. Y'all are savages. So, the coffee shop meeting. I got there 15 minutes early because anxiety makes me punctual. Downtown groundwork, 2 p.m. on a Thursday, busy enough for background noise, but not so crowded we'd be overheard. I picked a corner table, ordered a black coffee I didn't want, and waited. Abigail arrived exactly on time, not 5 minutes late like she usually would be. Hair done, light makeup, wearing the blue sweater I'd given her last Christmas. All strategic choices, I'm sure. The first thing she said when she sat down wasn't, hello. It was that she'd lost 7 pounds since I left. Just dropped that fact like it was supposed to mean something. Stress weight loss as relationship currency, classic Abigail move. I didn't acknowledge it, just asked why she wanted to meet. She'd prepared notes, actual handwritten notes on a yellow legal pad. The sight was so unexpected, I almost laughed. This woman who would rather die than make a grocery list had bullet-pointed her way through whatever this conversation was supposed to be. Her first point, she was sorry, genuinely, deeply sorry for what she'd said. It was cruel and thoughtless, and she didn't mean it. She'd been stressed about work, annoyed that I was missing her birthday weekend, or so she thought, and had been drinking wine with Mia all afternoon. The words just came out. I asked why she'd laughed after. She flinched like I'd flicked water in her face. Said it was nervous laughter, said Mia always brought out her worst side, said it was a stupid attempt to seem edgy and cool in front of her sister. Second point, she'd been taking our relationship for granted. She'd gotten comfortable in the safety I provided, the stability. She'd stopped appreciating everything I did and started focusing on what I didn't do. Third point, the past 3 weeks had been a wake-up call. She'd realized how much she depended on me, not just financially, though that was part of it, at least she was honest, but emotionally. Said the house was too quiet, said she'd started talking to herself just to hear a voice. Fourth point, she wanted to try couples therapy. Had already found someone who specialized in rebuilding trust after betrayal, had booked a preliminary appointment for next week. Wouldn't I please consider it? Through all this, I just sat there, sipping my now cold coffee, watching her face for signs of the woman who'd casually wished me dead. Was this performance or genuine remorse? I still couldn't tell. When she finished her prepared remarks, she put the legal pad down and looked at me directly for the first time, asked what I was thinking. I told her I was thinking about parallel universes, about how, in another timeline, I never drove through that snowstorm, never heard what she said, would still be living in blissful ignorance, sleeping next to someone who could laugh at the thought of me dead. She started crying, not the theatrical sobbing from Theodore's living room, quiet tears that she kept wiping away with a napkin like they were an inconvenience. I laid out my terms, not negotiating points, just facts. The separation would continue for the full 6 months as planned. I wouldn't be moving back in during that time. I wasn't saying never to reconciliation, but I wasn't saying yes to couples therapy yet, either. I needed time. She nodded through all of it, like each word was a small blow she was absorbing. When I finished, she just asked if I hated her. Weirdest part? I didn't. Still don't. There's anger, disappointment, hurt, but not hate. I told her that. She seemed genuinely surprised, said she'd been telling herself I must hate her to shut her out so completely. Said it was almost worse that I didn't because it meant I just didn't care enough anymore to feel anything that strong. That stung, because it wasn't entirely wrong. The conversation wound down after that. We agreed to communicate through email about practical matters like the house and bills. She'd continue paying the mortgage, her name's on it too. I'd continue paying my share of utilities. We'd reassess at month 3 of the separation. As we got up to leave, she hesitated, then asked if she could hug me. I said no. She nodded like she'd expected it, gathered her things, and walked out. I sat there for another half hour, thinking about how surreal it was to have such a businesslike conversation with someone you've seen ugly cry, someone who's held your head when you had food poisoning, someone who knew every stupid, embarrassing story from your childhood. 7 years reduced to bullet points on a legal pad. Life continued its weird new pattern. I extended my remote work arrangement through the end of the month. Theodore's spare room became less temporary feeling as I bought a decent mattress topper and hung up a few pictures. I established routines: morning run, work, gym 3 times a week, cooking dinner with Theodore when our schedules aligned. The silent strategy continued to pay unexpected dividends. With limited contact from me, Abigail seemed to be doing some actual reflection. Her sister Mia sent me a surprisingly humble message a week after the coffee shop meeting. Said she'd been a bad influence on Abigail for years, encouraging her to be brutally honest, mean, as some twisted form of sisterly bonding. Said she was disgusted with herself for laughing that day. Didn't ask for forgiveness, just wanted me to know she recognized her role in the situation. I didn't respond, but took screenshots, not for leverage, just to remind myself I wasn't crazy for feeling betrayed. Meanwhile, the financial pressure was hitting harder than I'd anticipated. Abigail's friend Jill reached out again, said Abigail was struggling to maintain her lifestyle on just her income, had to cancel her monthly spa membership, was looking for a roommate to help with the mortgage but didn't want to actually move anyone in because she was still hoping I'd come home. I noted the manipulation tactic, using a friend to make me feel guilty, but didn't take the bait. Thanked Jill for the update and said Abigail was welcome to contact my lawyer if she wanted to discuss financial arrangements. Around day 30, something shifted in Abigail's approach. Her emails became less emotional, more practical. She started selling some of her more expensive clothes and bags on resale apps, got rid of her second car, the impractical convertible she'd insisted on buying last summer. Even mentioned in an email that she was considering taking classes to increase her earning potential. It was like watching someone grow up in fast motion. Strangely, I felt proud of her, even as I remained determined not to rescue her. Day 35 brought an unexpected twist. I checked the mail at my P.O. box and found a thick envelope from Abigail. Inside was a handwritten letter, 10 pages, front and back, and a USB drive. The letter was essentially a timeline of our relationship from her perspective, every major moment, good and bad. The proposal at the lake, our first big fight about her spending, the miscarriage in year 3 that we never really talked about properly, the gradual shift in how she saw me from partner to provider to obstacle. It was brutally honest in a way our actual conversations never had been. She admitted to resenting my contentment with our life when she always wanted more, admitted to comparing our lifestyle unfavorably to her friends, even though she knew they were drowning in debt to maintain appearances. Admitted to flirting with her coworker Jason last year, though she swore nothing physical happened. The USB drive contained audio files, recordings of her therapy sessions, with her therapist's permission, apparently. I only listened to one. Couldn't stomach more. Hearing her dissect our marriage with a stranger, hearing the genuine confusion in her voice when she tried to explain why she'd said what she said about the insurance money, it was too intimate, too raw. I deleted the files and put the letter in my document box. Not sure if I'll ever read it again, but it felt wrong to throw it away. Day 40 brought another development. Ran into our neighbor Lydia at the hardware store. She mentioned that Abigail had been hosting some kind of weekly gathering at the house. Not parties, meetings. Said there were always 6 or 7 cars out front on Wednesday nights. Curiosity got the better of me. That Wednesday, I parked down the block and watched. 7 women arrived between 6 o'clock and 6:30, all around Abigail's age. Some I recognized as her friends, others were strangers. I didn't approach, That would be weird, but I did text Jill afterward, asking casually what Abigail was up to these days. She said Abigail had started a women's accountability group focused on financial literacy and breaking toxic relationship patterns. That was not what I expected. Around day 45, the social media dynamic shifted dramatically. Mia, who'd been conspicuously silent about our situation online, posted a lengthy status about supporting my sister through her awakening and helping her recognize destructive patterns. She tagged Abigail, who responded with a simple, "Love you, but this journey is mine to share when I'm ready." This caught the attention of our mutual friends. Suddenly, people who'd been giving me space started reaching out, asking what was going on. The rumor mill churned. Someone heard Abigail was in rehab, she wasn't. Someone else heard I'd cleaned out our accounts and left her destitute, also untrue. Yet another claimed we'd been having problems for years and the separation was mutual, partially true, I guess. I maintained my silence. Let them wonder. Day 50 marked a significant moment. For the first time since leaving, I went back to the house while Abigail was home. Needed to pick up my winter gear from the garage. Minnesota's spring is a lie, and we got 6 inches of snow overnight. Texted her first to make sure it was okay. She responded immediately saying, of course, she'd be home all day working on some project. Pulling into the driveway felt surreal. The lawn needed mowing, the flower beds were untended, small signs of my absence. Abigail met me at the door but didn't hover. Just said to take whatever time I needed, then retreated to the kitchen where she appeared to be painting something. The house felt different, smelled different too, less like my laundry detergent, more like the essential oil diffuser she'd always wanted to use but I found too strong. Photos had been rearranged, some furniture moved, not drastically, but enough to notice. In the garage, I found my winter stuff neatly boxed and labeled, not thrown together hastily, but carefully packed. She'd even included things I'd forgotten about. My favorite scarf, the expensive gloves my mom had given me 2 Christmases ago. As I loaded the boxes into my car, Abigail came out with a mug of coffee, asked if I wanted to see what she was working on inside. No pressure, just an offer. Curiosity won out. I followed her to the kitchen, where she'd set up a small art studio. She was painting wooden signs with inspirational quotes, the kind of thing she used to mock people for buying at Target. Actually seemed embarrassed as she explained it was therapeutic and she'd sold a few at a local farmer's market. We talked for maybe 15 minutes, surface-level stuff. Weather, her parents' anniversary, the water heater making that knocking sound again. Normal conversation between 2 people who used to share everything. As I was leaving, she said something that stuck with me, said she'd been reading about grief and realized she was grieving our marriage while also hoping to save it, and those 2 things kept contradicting each other in her head. I nodded, said I understood because I felt the same contradiction. It was the most honest exchange we'd had in years. Day 60 brought financial clarity. Meeting with Milton, the financial advisor, not the lawyer, still confusing, revealed Abigail had been sticking to our agreement. No new joint debt, regular payments on her personal credit cards. She'd even paid off that store card I hadn't known about. Milton suggested it might be time to discuss more permanent financial arrangements, depending on which way I was leaning about reconciliation. I realized I hadn't actively thought about that choice in weeks, had been so focused on maintaining boundaries that I'd avoided the bigger question. So, I made a list, pro/con style, like deciding which car to buy or which job offer to take. Except this was about whether to try salvaging a 7-year marriage or walk away permanently. The list didn't help. Some things can't be quantified. Day 70. Theodore announced he was seeing someone seriously enough that they were discussing moving in together, not immediately, but within a few months. He assured me I could stay as long as I needed, but the subtext was clear: time to figure out a more permanent arrangement. That weekend, I toured 3 apartments, signed a 6-month lease on the second one. 1 bedroom, walkable downtown location, decent kitchen, a fresh start. Told Abigail via email. She responded with a single line, "I understand, but the door here remains open." Moving day came on day 75. Theodore helped, along with 2 other friends. 4 hours of carrying boxes and furniture up 3 flights of stairs because the elevator was broken. Ordered pizza and beer afterward, christened the place with a makeshift living room picnic since I hadn't bought a dining table yet. That night, alone in my new apartment, I finally opened the folder of photos on my external hard drive. 7 years of memories. Vacations, holidays, random weekday moments. Abigail laughing at something off camera, Abigail sleeping with her mouth slightly open, Abigail in the early days looking at me like I hung the moon. I didn't cry, just sat there feeling the weight of everything we'd built and everything we'd lost. Day 80, email from Abigail asking if we could meet again. She wanted to discuss what would happen after our 6-month separation ended, still 3 months away, but she wanted to be prepared for either outcome. We met at a different coffee shop, more neutral territory. She looked good, healthy, had cut her hair to shoulder length, wore minimal makeup and simple clothes, jeans, sweater, boots, the flashy designer purse replaced by a canvas tote. The conversation was direct. She asked if I was leaning toward reconciliation or divorce. I told her honestly that I hadn't decided. Asked what she wanted. She said she wanted to try again, but only if I could eventually forgive her. Really forgive, not just say the words while holding on to resentment. Said she'd changed in the past 11 weeks, was still changing, and wanted the chance to show me that person rather than tell me about her. I said I believed she'd changed, said I'd changed too. Said I wasn't sure if our new selves were still compatible or if we'd grown in different directions. She nodded, said that was fair. Then she handed me a sealed envelope, said it contained her proposed terms for either outcome, reconciliation or divorce. Asked me to read it when I was ready and let her know my thoughts. I opened it 3 days later. Inside was the most mature, reasonable document I could have imagined from someone fighting for their marriage while preparing for its end. For reconciliation, 6 months of couples therapy before cohabitation, full financial transparency from both sides, regular check-ins about relationship satisfaction, annual State of the Union, discussions about goals and progress. For divorce, fair division of assets based on contribution rather than strictly 50-50, she would buy out my share of the house at market value, no alimony either direction, clean break with minimal lawyer involvement if possible. It was clear-headed, practical, and completely unlike the Abigail who'd wished me dead for insurance money 3 months earlier. I emailed her that both sets of terms seemed reasonable, asked for time to make my decision. She responded with a simple, "Take all the time you need." Day 90 today. 3 months since I heard those words in Mia's kitchen. 3 months of silence, separation, reflection, and growth. I've been thinking about cakes, the one I left on Mia's counter, the birthday it was meant to celebrate, the moment everything changed. This afternoon, I went to the same bakery, bought the same cake, drove to my new apartment, and set it on my new counter. Then I took a photo and texted it to Abigail, the first direct text I'd sent her in 90 days. She called immediately. I let it go to voicemail. Then I cut a slice of cake, sat on my second-hand couch, and listened to her message. She didn't beg, didn't make assumptions, just said she understood the symbolism, said she would accept whatever I decided, said she was proud of how I'd handled myself through all of this with dignity instead of destruction. Said she was sorry again, not expecting forgiveness, but offering the apology anyway. I'm meeting with the lawyer tomorrow, not to file for divorce, not yet, but to discuss the next steps of either path, to understand what reconciliation would really look like after something like this, to know exactly what I'm choosing. Tonight, I'll finish this cake alone, not out of sadness, but because some journeys need to be walked solo. I don't know if Abigail and I have a future together. The wound she inflicted was deep. The trust she shattered won't be easily rebuilt. But I do know that whatever I decide, it will be from a place of strength rather than fear, of clarity rather than confusion. Those words at Mia's kitchen table revealed something ugly. But maybe they also revealed something necessary. Maybe we needed to break completely to see what we were actually made of. Or maybe some things, once broken, should stay that way. Either way, I'm at peace with the process. The man who left that cake on the counter 90 days ago would have set himself on fire to keep Abigail warm. The man writing this now knows his own worth. I'll update one last time after I make my final decision, but for now, I'm signing off. Thanks for coming on this journey with me, internet strangers. Your advice, support, and occasional terrible revenge suggestions have been a strange form of therapy. Still standing, still breathing, stronger than before. Noah. Outro. Wow, what a story, right? Noah's journey is one of heartbreak, betrayal, and finding strength in the face of it all. What do you think he should do? Try to rebuild with Abigail or walk away for good? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you want more stories like this, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss a single upload from your channel name. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.